The political earthquake has just hit, and this time, it's Keir Starmer who's caught in the epicenter. Richard Tice has detonated a move so explosive it sent shockwaves through Westminster and triggered a full-blown meltdown inside Labour HQ. No more warnings, no more polite debates. Reform UK is done talking, and they've taken real, immediate action. The message? If Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens love illegal immigration so much, then they can house the migrants themselves. Richard Tice has turned the tables in a way no one saw coming, delivering migrants directly to the doorstep of the very councils that pushed for open borders. It's a direct challenge, a brutal political reversal, and the beginning of a showdown that could reshape Britain's future. In a bold and calculated move, Richard Tice has taken the gloves off and gone straight for the jugular. Reform UK, fresh off major local gains, has begun using its newly acquired council power to do what the Tories refused and Labour never imagined: block migrant placements in working-class areas that never consented to them, and redirect them to the strongholds of pro-migration parties. The strategy is simple but devastating. If a council supported mass immigration, if it campaigned for asylum hotels, if it waved the refugees' welcome banners, then that council should shoulder the responsibility. And suddenly, that message has become policy. As the ink dries on legal paperwork prepared by reform-aligned council leaders, plans are underway to offload migrants into safe Labour and Lib Dem constituencies. It's not rhetoric. It's real. The silence from Labour frontbenchers is telling. Starmer, caught totally off guard, has gone into crisis mode. What triggered this rapid escalation was more than frustration. It was betrayal. For years, Reform UK and millions of ordinary citizens watched as Conservative ministers talked tough on immigration but did nothing, while Labour councils quietly filled up hotels, army barracks, and even holiday parks with thousands of illegal migrants. Communities complained, families protested, but they were ignored, smeared as bigots, xenophobes, or simply silenced. But now, after years of elite indifference, Reform UK is putting the power back into the hands of the people, and Keir Starmer's empire is shaking. The most damning line came when Tice declared, "If you voted for it, you can live with it." And with that, the political tables turned. The first battleground? Lincolnshire. Reform UK's newly installed council majority has already started implementing their migrant blocking agenda. But they're not just refusing to house illegal arrivals, they're actively identifying other councils where these individuals should be sent. And not just any councils. The targets are specific: Labour-run towns that have repeatedly boasted about their commitment to diversity and open borders. Green Party enclaves that waved refugee flags while rural areas collapsed under the pressure. And Lib Dem strongholds that demanded more migrants, only when they didn't have to house them themselves. These councils are now being told, "It's your turn." And Richard Tice isn't bluffing. Reform UK has already enlisted legal teams to launch preemptive strikes, stopping the Home Office from dumping migrants into their jurisdictions and rerouting the pressure onto virtue signalling councils who have spent years dodging consequences. The move has taken the establishment completely by surprise. In the same way, US governors like Greg Abbott flipped the script by buzzing migrants to Democrat-run cities. Tice is applying that same logic in the UK, and it's working. Mainstream media outlets are scrambling, Labour MPs are panicking, and within minutes of the announcement, chatter inside Westminster exploded. Keir Starmer reportedly called an emergency meeting with senior Labour figures to contain the fallout, but the damage is already spreading. While Starmer fumbles behind closed doors, Reform UK is out in the open, marching forward. Their plan includes not just blocking migrant placements, but reshaping national immigration policy entirely. They're calling for the scrapping of the Human Rights Act, withdrawal from the European Court of Human Rights, rapid deportation for illegal entrants, and the use of military-style tent facilities instead of luxury accommodations. Tice's words were sharp and deliberate. If the British Army can live in tents, so can people who break into our country. It's a hardline stance that resonates with tens of thousands of voters who feel they've been abandoned. Meanwhile, the Labour leadership finds itself trapped. If they speak out, they risk exposing their hypocrisy. If they stay silent, they look weak and complicit. And in this silence, Reform UK grows stronger. With Farage still waiting in the wings, fueling the fire from behind the scenes, this is no longer just a protest movement. It's a national uprising in real time. Councils that once proudly flaunted refugee banners are now nervously reviewing reform's threat. Can they block it? Can they refuse? Legally, they may have no choice. The groundwork has already been laid, and reform is 2 steps ahead. The truth is brutal. Starmer never expected anyone to fight back. He believed reform would shout from the sidelines while Labour quietly reshaped the country. But Tice has flipped the narrative. Instead of playing defence, he's launching a full-frontal political attack. And Starmer, Ed Davey, and the rest of the pro-migration elite are suddenly playing catch-up. And the British public? They're watching it unfold, many cheering as the balance of power begins to shift. As the fallout from Reform UK's explosive migrant redirection policy spreads like wildfire, the political establishment finds itself in a tailspin. Labour Party insiders are scrambling to contain what is now being described as the biggest grassroots backlash in over a decade. The idea that working-class towns should no longer be forced to bear the brunt of the migration burden has lit a fire under communities that have been ignored, mocked, and manipulated for years. Richard Tice and Nigel Farage have taken a position that resonates with millions, that immigration policy should not be dictated by privileged elites living behind security gates and within safe political bubbles. This radical shift is not just turning heads, it's flipping the entire script on what Britain's immigration debate looks like. Councils once proud to virtue signal from a distance are now being forced to deal with the direct consequences of the policies they promoted. Behind the scenes, the panic is growing. Reports emerging from Labour Party headquarters suggest Keir Starmer is on the brink of losing control of his messaging. Labour councillors in pro-migrant areas are reportedly furious that they are being thrown under the bus by a national leadership that never prepared them for this kind of blowback. Some are even considering breaking ranks, whispering to journalists off the record that Starmer's silence is making them look weak and exposed to angry constituents. Starmer, once hailed as a calm alternative to Conservative chaos, is now being seen by his own party as indecisive and disconnected. He built his leadership on a promise of integrity and stability. But right now, all Labour can offer is damage control. Voters are asking hard questions. If you welcomed illegal immigration, why won't you host the migrants? Why is it always other towns, other communities that suffer the consequences? Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats and the Greens are in no better shape. Ed Davey's party, long known for making grand moral statements on immigration and diversity, now finds itself staring at a political boomerang, flying straight toward its heartlands. Lib Dem controlled councils that once called for compassion and inclusivity are now being earmarked for new migrant relocations under Reform UK's policy. Voters in those regions, who often didn't vote for mass immigration themselves, are beginning to question what their party really stands for. And as Reform UK continues to climb in the polls, the fear within these parties is becoming palpable. The Greens, too, are seeing cracks form in their ranks. Their constant calls for borderless compassion are beginning to sound hollow as local pressure mounts. Voters are tired of slogans. They want answers. And while chaos reigns across traditional party lines, Reform UK is seizing the moment to consolidate power. Tice and his legal team are methodically rolling out a nationwide legal strategy to protect their new councils from forced migrant placements. At the same time, they are launching community forums, media blitzes, and policy task forces designed to keep this issue front and centre in the public consciousness. Unlike the establishment parties, who rely on bureaucratic delays and PR firms, Reform is mobilising at speed, with direct messaging and no-nonsense leadership. This aggressive stance has led to several Home Office briefings being leaked, indicating serious concern within Whitehall. Civil servants are now scrambling to assess the legality of Reform's defiance, while government lawyers debate whether they can forcibly override council decisions on migrant housing. The entire system is being stress-tested, and for the first time in decades, it is the establishment that looks brittle and unprepared. Nigel Farage's influence cannot be overstated. Though he has not yet officially returned to frontline politics, his fingerprints are all over this strategic manoeuvring. Sources close to Farage say he is advising on messaging, legal framing, and council tactics. He is acting as both kingmaker and war general, quietly steering the rebellion while allowing Richard Tice to take the spotlight. This division of power is proving effective. Tice appears as the face of pragmatic resistance, while Farage remains the mythic figure rallying Reform's base in the shadows. The synergy between the two men is terrifying to their opponents and exhilarating to Reform's followers. Together, they are crafting a new political doctrine, aggressive, unapologetic, and rooted in the belief that Britain's silent majority has been ignored for too long. The press is struggling to keep up. Left-leaning outlets like The Guardian and The Independent are attempting to downplay the story, framing Reform's policy as inhumane or populist posturing. But these attacks are not landing. In fact, they are backfiring. Readers are flocking to alternative media outlets that are giving voice to their frustration. Reform's ability to speak plainly, without the jargon and doublespeak of the traditional parties, is proving a major strength. Social media is ablaze with footage of Tice's interviews, soundbites of Farage's warnings, and angry citizens standing outside hotels demanding answers. The political class is being dragged into a fight it never wanted, a fight it thought it could avoid through silence and censorship. But the tide has turned. People want accountability, they want leadership. And so, Starmer is faced with an impossible choice: double down on Labour's open borders ideology and risk alienating working-class voters, or pivot dramatically and risk looking like a flip-flopper with no real principles. Either path is political suicide. Meanwhile, Reform UK continues to rise. Voter registration is increasing in reform-heavy regions, donations are pouring in, and most alarming of all for the establishment, whispers of defection. Multiple Conservative MPs, fearing for their seats, have reportedly held private talks with Reform figures. Some Labour MPs are allegedly doing the same, albeit more discreetly. The political centre is no longer holding. Reform has become the gravitational force pulling Britain's political debate into new territory. And the public sees it. No longer fooled by polished soundbites or party-line slogans, they are witnessing a live transformation of the political landscape. What started as a backlash is now a full-scale realignment. Richard Tice's move to dump migrants into Labour and Lib Dem councils has lit a fuse, and it is burning rapidly toward the foundations of the establishment. No one in Westminster seems able to stop it. Reform is no longer just a party, it's becoming a movement. And Keir Starmer, for all his talk of calm leadership and progressive values, is looking more like a man who misjudged the moment and may now be paying the price. The tremors of Reform UK's seismic move are now reaching every corner of the political spectrum, and the aftershocks are impossible to ignore. What began as a simple local policy decision has erupted into a nationwide reckoning, one that's forcing every party, from Labour to the Lib Dems, from the Tories to the Greens, to take a long, hard look at their immigration stance. Richard Tice has thrown down the gauntlet in a way no other modern party leader has dared. And while the media, the establishment, and the Westminster elite desperately attempt to control the narrative, ordinary British citizens are already taking sides. Across pubs, council estates, churches, and working-class communities, people are rallying behind Reform's message. Enough is enough. For too long, their voices were silenced under the weight of political correctness and elite arrogance. Now they have a party willing to speak and act for them, and it's changing everything. In the Conservative Party, the shock is turning into open fear. Having long claimed the mantle of border control and national security, the Tories now find themselves exposed as pretenders. Despite a decade of promises, the borders remained porous, and thousands of illegal migrants continued to enter the UK with impunity. The so-called Rwanda policy failed to launch. The hotel bills soared into the billions, and communities were left to absorb the chaos. Reform UK has not only capitalised on this failure, but has ruthlessly exposed it. Tice's biting critique, "Why didn't they act when they were in power?" has echoed far beyond Reform rallies. It's become the defining indictment of an entire generation of Tory leadership. Many traditional Conservative voters are now asking, what's the point of voting Tory if they act just like Labour when it counts? This identity crisis is already translating into defections at the grassroots level. Former Tory councillors are resigning and joining Reform. And with Farage potentially returning, senior Conservative MPs fear a full-scale exodus. Inside Labour, the atmosphere is no better. Starmer's inner circle is split between those urging him to defend Labour's migration legacy and others pleading for a strategic retreat. But time is not on their side. Reform UK's narrative has spread too quickly, and Labour's silence has made them look weak and hypocritical. Local Labour councillors, especially those in marginal areas, are furious. They are now being forced to confront the very policies they supported, without ever expecting to bear the consequences. Constituents are bombarding them with questions. Why are illegal migrants being housed in our towns? Why is there no consultation with the people? Why is the Labour leadership silent while communities suffer? This internal pressure is beginning to fracture the party. While Starmer projects a facade of calm, Labour operatives privately admit that morale is collapsing. They've lost control of the immigration narrative, and Reform has seized it with both hands. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage's shadow continues to loom larger. Though he has yet to officially announce his return to politics, the mere possibility is creating shockwaves. Every media appearance, every public comment, every rally he attends draws enormous attention. And more importantly, It fuels speculation that Reform UK is preparing for a general election blitz, unlike anything seen in modern British politics. Sources suggest that Farage is waiting for the perfect moment to strike, likely after a series of humiliating by-elections for Labour and the Tories. Once the timing is right, his return could electrify the base and propel Reform from a rising threat to an electoral juggernaut. The stage is being set. Tice is building the infrastructure. Councils are laying legal groundwork. And public support is accelerating. All that's left is the figurehead to walk through the open door, and Farage knows it. Back on the ground, the results are already visible. Communities that felt powerless are now rising with new energy. Protesters are gathering outside asylum hotels, demanding transparency and accountability. Leaflets are being distributed en masse, warning citizens about where migrants may be relocated. Local reform offices are overwhelmed with new volunteers, donors, and candidates willing to stand in the next election. The party is fast becoming a grassroots insurgency with momentum no one in Parliament anticipated. And unlike previous populist movements that burned out quickly, Reform UK has both the discipline and leadership to sustain the pressure. Tice is proving to be more than just a loud voice. He's a tactician, an organiser, and a man who understands both policy and politics. With Farage's strategic mind behind him, the duo is reshaping the rules of engagement in real time. Even the judiciary is being dragged into the storm. As legal battles ramp up between reform-led councils and the Home Office, the courts will soon be forced to determine who actually holds power in the housing of illegal migrants. If Reform's position is upheld, it would be a catastrophic blow to central authority, essentially handing local governments the ability to reject national asylum placements. That kind of decentralisation would ripple across the UK, empowering more councils to follow Reform's lead and creating a patchwork of